What's going on, everybody? James here. And I came up with a topic the other day that I kind of thought would be a interesting topic to do with life. And my life and what ifs. And I got two kind of scenarios, ideas that I was thinking about. And that is, what if my parents were more supportive? And I'll get into details and everything. And then the other is, what if mental health precisely, was more acceptable and looked at as it is today back in the 80s, if you will. We'll go parents supportive first. And I know this probably in a very flattering angle, but I thought it was a pretty unique angle, especially if Pee-wee lays down at the top of the stairs. Plus you get to see Skid Row right here. You got a little Motley Crue right there. You got some Jimmy Page there. You got some ICP up here, and Rob Zombie and Prince. But anyway, and some dirty stairs. I haven't vacuumed in a while. So, supportive. So, grew up poor. My dad worked a job. My mom stayed at home. My mom was very protective, overprotective. And when I look back on it, it feels like it was because it was a lazy way of being overprotective. You know, she didn't want me to go out and run around because she'd have to keep an eye on me. Even in a fenced yard, though. We used to hear, my friends used to tease me because James can't come outside today because it's too cold. It's too hot. It's raining. It's too wet. It just rained. You know, my mom had an excuse for every reason why I couldn't go out and play with my friends. And even, like I said, even in a fenced backyard. And then at 15, I was basically cut loose. Here's a key to the house, and I was free to go. So I went from being caged to literally unleashed to no limits. Didn't have to come home at a certain time, nothing. Totally flip-flopped the situation, which, hey, I took advantage of. Stayed out many nights, and there was even one time where we all stayed up like 3 days, just out and about, running around, goofing off, swimming in ponds in parks we shouldn't have been in the middle of the night, and you probably didn't want to jump in because you smelled the essence of Benton Park. If you know St. Louis and know where Benton Park is, the essence of Benton Park. We'd walk into 7-Eleven at 3, 4 a.m. smelling like the essence of Benton Park. But my point is, my mom didn't care if me and my sister finished school. My sister, I don't even think she went to high school. Did she? I don't remember going to high school. When I was a sophomore in high school, I dropped out. And then after 2 weeks, I was just really bored because there was nobody around to do anything with or whatever. So I went back to school. And I finished out high school. But I didn't know what college was or what the future was. And when you grow up in a neighborhood and you don't have a lot of means to different things, cultures or jobs or anything like that, you don't know what there is out there for you. You don't know what you should do. My wife's a pharmacist, and I told her I didn't even know what a pharmacist was until I was like 20 years old. What's a pharmacist? We didn't go to the doctor or the pharmacy or anything like that. So there was a lot that was hidden from you back in the day. And, obviously no internet, so you can't explore anything. But what if the parents were supportive? What if they pushed me to do this, pushed me to do that? Where would I be today? Would I be more successful? Would I have been less successful because I would have been less driven on my own? So, to me, there's no real answer there. It's just something I like to ponder. And what it does, it just makes me appreciate the reality of what has happened, right? With no support, with no pushing, with no encouragement. That's probably a better word there. With no encouragement to do anything, I was still able to make myself do something. Everything took longer. I always, my entire life, felt uh, short, like I was behind. And I think now I blame it on like kind of dyslexia. That's why I can't re- remember reading and things like that. But um, it could also be the fact that I was caged basically up until I was 15 years old. And from my surroundings and, growing up poor and in the hood, if you will, you can't see much farther than the streets you travel on. So getting, I guess cultured is a way of saying it, of understanding what jobs or what professions, what you can do in life to make money, and you're just unaware of all that stuff. And again, that can make you feel dumb and stupid on top of it, right? So not only dealing with, dyslexia and again, going back to mental health, or starting with mental health, I should say, nice flow over into it. Back then, nobody paid attention to that kind of stuff. I hear Pee Wee. Nobody paid attention to that stuff. So uh, I just felt dumb. Like, why can't I read this book and understand what's going on? I didn't get it. So putting all that together, and then, so sitting back, there he is. He's coming down. What up, kiddo? Love my boy. So when I ponder things like that, it makes me feel proud that I was able to push through a lot of stuff on my own and was able to get to a point of getting what I wanted in life. What I wanted in life was two things: to live in a neighborhood where I didn't have to worry when I went to sleep, and to be happy and find something that I can do for a living to make money to be happy. And I've accomplished all that. So to be able to accomplish all that, even if it took me, longer than it should have, I feel I have I don't beat myself up for it because I think I overcame a lot of things in order to get to that point. So I make sure now to not really pat myself on the back or anything, but just to remember that you did something. With obstacles, you did something. Because that's so important, especially when it comes to mental health. If you're feeling down, depressed, um, like I've talked about, 55 years old, and, they don't prepare you for what to do when your parents die or when your siblings die. Life doesn't prepare you for that. Some people get it earlier than others. Some people see it more than others when it comes to, seeing friends killed and things like that. So some people experience it at different phases in life. But when you don't experience it, my mom, so my first major passing was my aunt when I was 19. And she wasn't somebody I saw every day, but we saw her on vacation or on holidays. So Christmases and Thanksgivings and stuff disappeared. So that was a huge change. Then in 2009, my mom passed away. And then my brother in 2016, and then my dad in 2021. But they don't prepare you on how your life will change when that kind of stuff happens. Even if you're not super close with your parents, it still gives you a lonely feeling that I always looked at it as a way to fall back on. Um, there, the whole thing that you could always go home type of thing, even though the one time that I did fail and went back home, my mom wouldn't let me. She's like, no. So here in Adrian. So I slept in my car for a couple of nights, and then she finally gave in. But then I had to stay in an attic, basically with no air conditioning and no heat. So it was basically the outside elements. All I had was a roof and a wall. So I was basically outside but inside, and was there for 2 years, sleeping in the cold and sleeping in the 0 degrees and sleeping in the 110 degrees. But still, I always felt it was always like a cushion in my head. Like if I failed because I felt like a failure, trying to do so much, that I always had a security blanket to fall back on. And not that I would have needed it at the time, they passed. It was more of a mental thing than anything else. And getting past that, and just how life changes overall, they don't prepare you for that. But then also too, if things were addressed better back in the 80s, like they are today when it comes to mental health and OCD or ADHD or whatever it is, and attention deficit disorder and all that stuff, ADD, there would probably be, how would that affect people? Would there be a lot more successful people, or would there be a lot less successful people out of that generation? Again, I think it depends on your personality. If you're someone who is able to push through stuff and figure it out, it's kind of a 50-50 shot, whether it would help you or whether it would hurt you. It's hard to argue if you would be less driven or more driven if you didn't have obstacles to overcome at the same time. So I always think about that. Not always, but I like to think about that. How about that? I like to think about it because, as I said, it helps you, it makes sure that you don't forget that, you are where you are, and you're there because of you. At the end of the day, you're there because of you. You may have had circumstances, you may have had obstacles, you have had, whatever it is. You're where you are because of you. Now, obviously, if you feel you're in a bad spot, you have the power to get out of that. You have all the power in the world. You have more power today than I did in the 80s. And if I could do something, who always felt dumb as a rock and had no help and no support to get there, you have no excuse. Do it. Change it. And if you are where you enjoy, embrace it. Think about that. Pat yourself on the back if you have to. Live it. Love it. And just enjoy it. All right. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you all in the next video later.